Hey, everybody. I am thrilled to bring you my interview with Colette Baron-Reid. She is a New York Times international bestseller. She's the creator of the Oracle cards, which have sold over 2 million worldwide. She's the author of 7 books, and we're looking at what it takes to get out of survival mode. So these are neurons that fire together and wire together. They're familiar, they're bad habits, but what does it take to truly break free of them? This girl has walked her talk. She's been through some horrible circumstances, and you're going to find it so eye-opening to discover how she broke free. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Next Level Healing. I'm your host, Dr. Tara Perry. My guest today is the super incredible Colette Baron-Reid. She is a best-selling author, internationally acclaimed Oracle expert, spiritual intuitive, personal transformation thought leader, business strategist, artist, and educator. She is the founder of the Oracle School Experience, Oracle Palooza, and the Dream Quest Platinum membership. She's the Mastermind. Sorry, thank you.
That's okay.
She's the author of 19 best-selling Oracle card decks with over 2 million sold worldwide and 7 books. Colette's greatest joy is teaching people they have a direct access and personal dialogue with the universe to help them create their most fulfilling lives. What a great mission, Colette.
Thank you. Thank you. I certainly didn't wake up thinking that that's the way the life would be, but that's the one that got chosen for me. And I'm very grateful that I get to do it.
Yeah, for those people that sometimes are struggling and thinking it's not so easy, it wasn't always so easy for you. You did grow up in a privileged environment, but your mandate was to go become a lawyer.
Yeah,
That
was not to be, right? So if you want me to just kind of fill that out a tiny bit. So my parents were immigrants. They came after World War II to Canada. My dad was Serbian. My mom was from Germany, even though she had Polish background. Anyhow, so yeah, they came to Canada to start their life over again with nothing. And my dad was a very well-respected land developer, and he was an engineer. Actually, he was a fascinating man. He was 20 years older than my mom. They met when they came over on the same boat, right? And met in a boarding house. Anyway, so. Their goal is many European immigrants were going to work hard and the kids are going to be safe because money, property, and prestige is going to keep these kids safe. So I was pretty smart, and they decided I was going to be a lawyer. I was going to marry a doctor, have 6 kids or whatever, like the goal was, but I only wanted to be a singer-songwriter. And so I pursued music, but I had this capacity, which was actually really difficult since I was little. I never knew where I ended and other people began, which is probably why music was so healing for me, because it kind of sewed me together. But I have a number of parallel stories. I am a recovered alcoholic. I've been clean and sober 40 years. So I got into a lot of trouble trying to escape myself. I was bulimic when I was 14. So yeah, people think, oh, it's easy for you. You blah, blah, blah. Well, you don't know where I came from. Right. And regardless of the fact that, my dad built this amazing, very safe and beautiful life and put us in a privileged, private girls' school, et cetera, anglicized our last name. I was raised Anglican, because that was where everybody, and there was other plans for me. And I think I did all these tests for neurodivergence. So I thought it was fascinating that had we understood all the struggles I was having, it would have been treated very differently. But there was no labels or names for anything I was struggling with. So, the acting out with alcohol, drugs, whatever, there was the 60s. This was like the early 70s. I was into the music scene and whatever. Anyway, I obviously didn't become a lawyer, and I did pursue music, but this ability to know things beyond time and beyond, common knowledge and the short form understanding of knowing somebody and the information they give you became a skill. And we can talk more about that after, but that's basically how I got to where I am now. So I fell into the intuitive work while pursuing another life altogether. And, but man plans and God laughs.
Yes, I love that quote. Yes, we make plans, and how do you make God laugh? Tell me your plans. I love what you said about not knowing where you stopped and the rest of the world started, which is very indicative of that right brain. Because I interviewed Jill Bolte Taylor, and when she had the stroke of her left hemisphere, that's what her experience was, and it was a blissful experience, and nirvana and all that. But it's like there's a problem with it, as you just have a difficulty navigating through life in 3D.
Yes.
So she talked about that rebuilding process. So for people that are feeling like maybe they're out of place and the world doesn't accept me as me as I am, what was that like for you?
Hey guys, studies are showing that 68% of people that watch podcasts regularly don't click the subscribe button. Do me a huge favor. If you like this content, click subscribe so other people know where to go for the cool stuff. Thank you.
That's a real hotspot, because I felt like that my whole life. I never felt I belonged anywhere. I never felt that I was allowed to be angry. I never felt that I was allowed to have my own life. And again, I cannot blame my parents. They're amazing people. I was built a certain way. I didn't know what was mine and what wasn't mine. So empathy overload was my constant state, right? And bulimia was the first way in which I got out of it, because it was what was accessible, right? It was like I would. And then, of course, I started hanging around with kids who drank, and I know I was alcoholic and I think alcoholism is an addiction, but it first starts as an allergy, right? So the body rejects it, and you can't metabolize it like a normal person. So anyhow, so then the feeling that I never belonged anywhere was the fuel behind my rebellious personality, because I wanted to find a place where I belong. So I wanted to be around other misfits. And for me, because my parents were like, my dad was like, this is jungle music, right? Like, that new music or whatever. For me, that was like, I wanted to be a hippie, even though I kind of missed the boat because I was too young to be a hippie. But I really liked the whole idea. So, I wanted to rebel but I will just say this, for people who feel like they don't belong, I learned I had to belong to me. Now I had very specific, my path. So I guess when you listen to my story, I really invite you to more identify with my feelings rather than compare, because how I got to where I got to, it came through some very specific spiritual paths that worked for me. It's not one, like one size fits all, but I met somebody in the music industry, and he became my producer and whatever. And and then I got involved in like serious cocaine addiction. So I always laugh and say I took the express train into sobriety, because it was like in the 80s, apparently it was not supposed to not be addictive, right? So it was like, and I actually found like, I could really get clear headache temporarily and whatever. And, like that was what I understood, that anything that could alter my mood to the point where I could cope with the amount of information. So like it was all coping. It was medicine until it wasn't. And then it became a really, really, really devastating experience. And I hit bottom at 27, or I would say 26, and got clean and sober January 2nd, 1986. So I've been clean and sober 40 years. And my path was very specific. So I went to a lot of church basements. I went to a treatment center. I worked the 12 steps. I also was very active in Unity Church, and I really threw myself into understanding the new thought concepts of how we create reality, and to develop a conscious contact to a power greater than me. Didn't have to be religious. My version of God is not the white guy in the sky or a jealous, angry God. It's a very benevolent source. It's often neutral, so that it's my job to do the work and surrender to the results. So I really threw myself into it because I knew I was going to die. Like for me, it was life and death. So for me today, even today, 40 years later, I believe I was given a second chance, and the life that I create for myself now is my gift back from that unmerited gift of grace. So I spent, even though I was pursuing music, which was, in some ways very medicinal for me to be in music, because music is a thing. And if I'm in, really interested and involved in the neuro arts now. So there's proof now in studies that music can shift brain plasticity. So it was something that was good for me, but I didn't know that. But how I pursued it was more about the egoic need for redemption, and somehow it would make up for whatever I experienced. But but I started doing readings, and because, well, actually I started doing readings because I certified as an aromatherapist. And I had found myself, I started feeling like I belonged everywhere at that point. So it was an evolution, but it was pretty quick. As soon as I stopped drinking and stopped doing things to hurt myself and made amends to other people and took responsibility for my life and realized if I could live one day at a time to every 24 hours, I had a shot. And if I could develop this contact to a power greater than me, I choose to call God. So, and I really believe that, miraculous things happen, miracles happen, even though I still had terrible things happening at the same time. Both my parents died. My dad lost everything. It wasn't his fault. There was alcoholism in the family. I got clean and sober. Everybody else kind of fell apart. And I want to really be honoring of my family, but because I can't say it was dysfunctional. I believe I had to make all this my story. So what happened was, I found where I belonged, and then I learned that if I wanted to become the person I say I wanted, I would need to change. So interesting that I certified as an aromatherapist, and I knew I wanted to go in the healing arts because I had experienced a healing. I really experienced all this extraordinary things. I was interested in all kinds. I studied holotropic breath work and rebirthing and Jungian psychology. I never got my degree, but I went back to many different types of school, if you will. And then I started, doing readings, because once I touched people doing the aromatherapy, I would get information. I would just share it, and they would be like, wow. And then within a few months, nobody wanted to book a reading. They didn't want to book a massage. They wanted to book they wanted me to talk to them about them, right? Because it was so accurate. And I was like, what the hell is going on? I'm like, I don't really do this. I'm really a singer.
Oh my God, this is so fabulous. I'm just loving this.
Right? And then and so that's the other thing. A lot of people think, I don't know what my purpose is, but I'm going to tell you right now, your purpose is going to find you. You don't have to look for it. It's going to grab you. And maybe your purpose for one day is just to be nice to somebody in a lineup, at the grocery store. Maybe
what about being nice to yourself? Because I have found, I found that by going into the subconscious mind, people can flip things very, very quickly, which results in massive benefits on all levels. However, some people get stuck. They're really committed to, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy.
Well, I think so. If you want to talk about subconscious, so a lot of my work is about reframing that now, and the idea that we are going to continue to see through the reticular activating system of our brain, which is the sorting system of the subconscious, will show you evidence of whatever state of mind that you continue to rehearse. And then you start to notice it more in the outer world, right? The world is completely abundant. That's going to light up for you. And I think people, I will tell you about me because I can only speak for myself. So I was gang raped when I was 19. And I will say this, I have no problem about it today. That made me who I am. But I was I was all about self-harm at that point, because afterwards I felt so dirty. I felt it was all my fault. And in essence, looking back, I see that had I not been drunk or drugging and hanging out with the people that I was, none of that would have ever happened. So I do take responsibility for that without blame, because nobody should blame themselves for that. But I had a lot of struggle with self-reproach, low self-worth, low self-esteem. And it took time, but I had to choose every day. If I wanted to be the person that had dignity and self-respect, etc., I had to act as if. And so rehearsing a different self, and knowing that I was attached to that too, because I only knew myself as a victim. And there's a payoff for those negative feelings. There's a big payoff. People will treat you a certain way. You come to expect that this world was a certain way. And even if it's not what you want, it's familiar.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
That reptilian brain. And it's the craziest thing ever. It's like,
right?
Why do we keep defaulting to what's familiar? Because it's familiar.
because it is familiar. And so that became, so it was really interesting because even though I was doing readings, and at the beginning my reputation was based on predictive accuracy, but I realized quite quickly that, is that because, I'm seeing them from a particular point of vantage, but what if they did some work on themselves and they snapped out of this rehearsed state of being? What if they could be something else or go somewhere else? What could that be a question I could ask them? And then I was realizing, maybe this is not so empowering. After all, I always believed that there was no such thing in absolute determinism anyway, but I just kind of saw a runway and then they didn't change anything. So of course it would come true. And I'm like, you know what? That's not necessarily the best thing for any of us, right? So I started switching over to saying, here's what I see at this point from this point of vantage, but what do you really want to experience? Because in fact, there are ways, there's protocols and everything. And I had learned all these things over time, using active imagination to bypass the subconscious and enter the unconscious realm of dreaming, and through symbol and image, et cetera, which is why I got very involved in oracle cards, because they were universal reflections. Again, the ones that I make, they're reflections of the universal human experience. And if you're asking for the highest good, it will show you where you are. And if you're repeating something, and it reminds you, because sometimes you need that little bell to ring, like, oh, no, not repeating that. Like if you do what you did, you're going to get what you got. Maybe you might want to try something unknown, which might be scary, but it's okay. And then the issue of safety comes up, right? Like I have had tremendous trauma triggers, right? Like I'm very aware of my trauma history. I also believe it's my job to deal with my trauma, not yours. Like it's my job to really get that. This is my story. This is my history. I did EMDR, a lot of different techniques to especially some of the stuff that just got really embedded in the body, right? The body holds it. When the pandemic happened, there were some things that came up, which great for me. I have the tools, but not everybody does. So I guess what I want to say to the people listening is there are ways. There are so many ways that can help you, but you have to be the one to say, I want the help. You have to. And when the teacher is ready, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And like when I first got clean and sober, I didn't have a pot to piss in. I had no money. I was living hand to mouth. I had no idea. And the right people came to me in the right time with affordable opportunities. I go to, church basements for free. You know what I mean? Self-help groups, all this kind of stuff. What I needed each time came. And then I really started having faith that was true, that would continue. And I just trusted every day. Like my needs are going to get met. My wants, probably not so much because they aren't in alignment yet with, like, it took me a while to want humility. It took me a while to want to be led by spirit. It took me a while to say, thy will be done through me. Even though I have a PS, I want this, but I get it, right? It took me a while to understand the nature of surrender. So it's a process, and we're stories in motion. It's always an emergence of the psyche, the emergence of your identity. I just don't want to identify as a victim anymore. And I'm not. I am not a victim. I can talk very, calmly and compassionately with self-compassion, about the things that occurred. Yeah, sometimes I could look, it happened to me, but I don't know. Now I see the past in a very different lens. My whole past has been rewritten because I see it through a different perspective and perception. So also when people complain that they don't belong anywhere, a lot of it's sometimes we do that because we're afraid of the intimacy with others. We're afraid that they might see us, that in fact we will become vulnerable through our own exposure, self-exposure. So it's safer to be isolated. It's safer to say I don't belong. Right. I had to face that in myself. Like, okay, what does this even mean? What am I making it mean? And then your subconscious, which is really, really, it's hard to train that bugger, right? Like we think we're the boss, that thinking mind is. The subconscious is what is trained. And FYI, if you think for a second you are retaining your agency lately. Like every one of us has to be so careful online, like the algorithms. It's like, it's an outer like reticular activating system. It's like, here, I saw you look at that. You need more of that. And then there's the conditioning that's being manipulated. The whole population is being divided. It's fascinating. And not a whole lot of us are benefiting from any of that, but yet we buy into it. So I think now more than ever, these types of conversations and what you do, so important to realize like we need our agency. We need
Well, and I I recall that rat experiment, where they would press the lever and they'd get the cocaine and they'd give up sex and they'd give up food. And for humans, the emotion seems to be anger and frustration, and self-justification. And so the algorithms do feed that, and we've got this incredibly polarized world right now.
And why is that?
And I've heard you say when you were interviewed that that's not, benefiting anybody.
No, it's not. It really isn't. Because bottom line at the end of the day, and I think it was funny. My husband and I were talking about it. I don't really put a whole lot of effort into growing my social media channels or whatever. I just figure it is the people who'll find me who are meant to, whatever. And because it's not about being seen for me, it's about having value to offer. Right. And so, but we were talking about it. We were saying, it's because I'm in the middle of the road. I stand in the middle of this bridge and I'm going to wait till everybody meets me there because I believe the answers are in the middle. I believe that we got to come to that bridge and find some way to cross it together, to meet in the middle. And at the moment, that's not possible because it doesn't serve the greater manipulators or whatever. It's better for business if we're polarized in some way. But I think now it's gotten out of control and out of hand. But, at the end of the day, all these extreme anything, it is just about attention, right? So attention is our currency. So what are you going to pay attention to and how much are you going to rehearse that attention? Because that's where then your subconscious is going to grab onto that and go, that's important. I think I'm going to remind them and just store that in there because that's reality for you. Right. And that's all you're going to notice.
And another thing that you talk about, which I love, when you're pointing the finger at somebody else, you've got three fingers pointed back at yourself. So it's so empowering to take a look at, if I have such an issue with somebody else for this reason, what in me is being triggered. How do I own that same characteristic?
Without blame. I think that's the other thing, because there's so much harshness in the world. And there's this, and I think too, during a number of years, the idea of virtue signaling became such a thing, right? All the fear created the need to signal that I am virtuous so you won't hurt me or any of that stuff, which I think was horrifically detrimental to mental health across the board. And so it doesn't matter why it happened. It just is that if you're afraid and you're constantly acting out of fear is the other thing. It's like, you're not being authentic. You're just doing it to make sure that you're not gonna, you know what I mean? You're avoiding something and avoidance isn't it. And if we're really with the truth and with the, like being present in what it is that we genuinely want. And, you'll find that you have a lot more in common with this other side than you would absolutely ever. Oh, so here's an example. So the Dream Quest Mastermind, my mastermind, everybody signs an NDA. It's a great social experiment. I've done it 10 years. I'm in my 11th year now. Nope. Everybody signs an NDA. No one is allowed to talk about politics, right? Nobody. You don't know who you voted for in there. And I know, but nobody else does. And I'm finding it fascinating how everyone gets along. And if they only knew, do you know what I mean?
Well, it's so known that we all agree on like 87% of
yes.
But as Robert Kiyosaki says, you can't catch fish in clear water. So it does serve certain people's agendas if everybody fighting against each other.
Yeah, it's weird.
I mean,
you can't catfish in murky water.
You can't catch fish in clear water. So if the water is murky, nobody sees what's going on.
I get it. Yes. Oh, yeah, I get it. They're catching us. We're the fish. Mm-hmm. Right. I know. But I've heard it the opposite too, where if the water's too murky, you can't see the fish. right? So if we really want what we say we want clarity so that we see, yeah, I get it.
And in one scenario, we're the fish, and the other
And
scenario,
the other one, we're the one with the net.
yes.
It's so wild. It's so true. So I don't spend much time in wondering who did what and why. I want to know the what do I do now and how do I live both and, because I have no power or control over that narrative that's being fed to me, but I can choose what I nourish myself with. So I know that's going on. I know that that what I see is not going to be the full story anyway. It doesn't matter. I'm really respectful of the fact that there's shit going on in the world. Sorry if you have to bleep me out. And I'm powerless to change that, but I'm not powerless to first acknowledge that I have feelings about it all and then let that go through me and then make my choices about how I want to live in my little world where I do have power over my thoughts and my actions, right? And what I put out into the world. And that's the work for me so that I don't harm, like do no harm and, do the best that I can for me and mine. And on a day-to-day basis, be kinder, be gentler, be stronger, be more whatever it is. But also recognize that serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, because you need courage, especially with the comfort zone. You need, it's saying like, hey, all those stories that you're not good for you, but that you're familiar with. Wow. Step over the bend, right? Step forward.
Yeah, no, I love, you have a disclaimer in your Art of Manifesting book. And I love the way that you sort of, like all the greats throughout history, the spiritual great people, they say that the universe is neutral. There's good and bad. But my goodness, to have that kind of clarity where you went through that gang rape as a young person, and then you just, it only has more over you if your story says I'm bad, I'm dirty, I'm a victim, but you didn't do that.
I did for a while. And that was only one thing. There were a number of situations like that I placed myself in where rape happened, whatever. It's like, so it was kind of like, I'll show you, that thing about trying to recreate a situation so it would end differently. Right. And that's what I did a few times. So yes, for many years when I was younger, I did see myself as a victim, but it bit by bit, I was like, this isn't serving me. Like I'm not happy with this, and why do I keep going back to that? And I'm like, well, what if I could be this? And it was really kind of like pretending at first. I pretend I'm this. What would it be like to be this person that doesn't feel like that? It was like, and then I started realizing, oh, I could do that. If I did that every day, I wonder what would happen. And eventually I just stopped seeing myself that way. And I started seeing myself not necessarily as a big winner, but that I had self-respect. I had dignity. I would never be around the same people and whatever. And it's interesting because people who knew me 40 years ago, just when I first got sober, and they know me now, they don't know who the hell I am now, unless I've kept in touch with them over the years. They're like, who are you? Because I'm not her anymore. I respect.
Powerful story.
So anyone listening to this, your life, your past does not dictate what your future is going to be, but it does take work. It takes discipline, and you need people like Dr. Tara and other people that can help show you the way. I didn't do this alone. I didn't wake up one day and think I was some guru.
And who were your biggest? I know the 12-step program. Were there any other particular people that were?
Yeah, the older, certainly. I went to the Tibetan temple to learn how to meditate. So meditation. So if I would say Florence Scovel-Shinn, some of the earliest writers.
Love her.
Right?
I have told so many people about her.
Right? She was really, I would say, one of the biggest influence. And Catherine Ponder, who is a Unity Church minister who wrote books in the 60s. And then Norman Vincent Peale. So I was I was very influenced by Christian Science, by Science of Mind. Ernest Holmes was another one. So all of those, teachers that came out of that time frame really changed my life. Charles Hamill. There's lots and lots, but Florence Scovel-Shinn, I think, is the queen of all of it.
I'm guessing you stumbled across Neville Goddard as well.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I have a list. Neville Goddard would be one of them too.
I think they're like a male and female of the same thing. And the fact that this started in the 1930s or 40s, is that crazy?
Yeah. And it didn't, it did start there, but of course there were, there was the Golden Dawn and William Blake and all of these people. That Dion Fortune was also like the more magical techniques that happened in the early turn of the century, which was basically saying similar things, but more lofty. Like, I think you could really, like, if I compare Florence Scovel-Shinn, for example, to Madame Blavatsky, Helena Blavatsky, with the Theosophical movement, bottom line, at the end of the day, Florence Scovel-Shinn said the very simplest things, which the other one made very complicated. Right?
Truth is truth. And if you just go back, I mean, even back into the Vedas and all, and I can't quote chapter and verse on any of that stuff, but it seems that when you find an enlightened being that is helping people transform through space and time, they're all saying the same thing in slightly different language.
Oh, totally. There's a really great, I have a book, a comparative analysis between between religions. I wanted to be an interfaith minister when I got sober, after kind of like, while I was doing the music thing. I thought maybe I'll sing in church, right? But whatever that, because I was so fascinated with the commonalities of the golden rule that came with literally everywhere. And the other, there was a really great, why can't I remember? Karen Armstrong. Sorry, my dog is,
he's got my cat jumping into my lap at this point.
She's got a bit of a heart condition, don't you? I know. And when you get
little honey, I love animals. I just had an animal communicator on the other day. We love.
Oh, I need a good one.
Oh, she's amazing, Kate Celisti.
Okay, I got to get the info from you, because I want to know something about these guys. This one started. Well, anyway, whatever. It's another conversation. So, because we're really talking about self-actualization and ways in which we were helped, and simple books like that are still in print, like Catherine Ponder, The Dynamic Laws of Prayer, The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity. I mean, that was just like the idea of chemicalization, that when you get on the spiritual path and that you get on a manifestation track, for example, the shit can hit the fan. Like, things can fall apart before they get better, and recognizing that that's part of it. Like, you have to dissolve. And if you don't do it yourself, the universe will take it away.
I always say it's like God knocking on the front door, and it's like if you ignore it, then the door gets blown down, and then if you ignore it, the house gets blown down.
Right? I'll take the answer of the door.
Yeah, it's like,
right? I'll answer the door.
Then you get to a point where you're like, there's a knock at the door. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, please let me know what you're saying.
Right? Oh my God, it's too funny. Yeah, I know. It's the same kind of. So, it's pretty simple. I mean, I think too, with age, things make more sense too. I went through a big period of, Hay House was incredible. I had a second album. I did eventually get the record deal.
Yes,
with my music. I got everything. I did all these vision boards, like over the years, and just struggled and chased. And of course, what I teach people is the surrender part. I didn't know that back then. I surrendered because I had to, because it wasn't working. But then I moved my attention, because I realized I was loving what I was doing. I was genuinely helping people, and all the feelings that I wanted to feel in the music career, I actually was feeling and experiencing in my career as an intuitive. And out of the blue, I did a Journey Through the Chakras, was a #1 selling a meditation CD when nobody'd ever done something like that. So, and then it came to the attention of the very record label that I put on my vision board 20 years earlier. And I got a deal and ended up with a couple of albums. But, I was 40 and I looked really young. So, and they didn't know, they thought I was in my 20s. So when they found out how old I was, that was all anybody talked about, was that EMI Music took a risk on a mature artist. And I wasn't cut out for it anyway. I'll be honest with you. It wasn't safe for me. The music business would have eaten me up. I was too fat, too old, too this, too that. I didn't belong anywhere. It was the worst. And then when
I'm very familiar with the entertainment business. So,
right? Right? It's hard. It's hard to
very
exist in it. It's soul destroying.
I couldn't agree more. You took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah. But I'm glad it didn't happen sooner, because I would have drank.
I can totally understand why people that ride that wave get lost and have a lot of problems, potentially.
Yeah. Yeah, they can. But yeah, and then Hay House offered me a book deal, and I'm like, this is weird. Okay. I didn't even know who they were. But I had been picked up by one of my clients, worked for Jamie Oliver, the chef in England, in London. He was called the Naked Chef at one time. But anyway, so he had a brand management company, and she was my client. She goes, listen, why don't you come with us? And, you really changed my life, et cetera. So I said, sure. And they were putting together a book proposal about my life or whatever. And Hay House was one of 3 people in an auction, and I just went with them, even though they didn't offer me the best deal. That was the worst one. And they were like, oh, why are you taking that one? I said, because I'm supposed to.
Oh,
Anyway,
intuitively you knew that, because I mean, Hay House obviously
it is.
is mecca for spiritual book.
But I had no
collection.
idea who they were. I was like, I don't know who they are. And then I didn't even look them up because internet really was just brand new, like too, right? It's funny. Anyway, well, I mean, it wasn't totally brand new, but I figured out when I went. But and then I realized, wow. But you know what was really cool? So Marianne Williamson in the 80s dropped a book called A Return to Love. And I'll never forget holding that book in my hand. That was published by Hay House. Holding it in my hand, I didn't know who Hay House was, and I didn't see Hay House, but she had been a singer, and she was this spiritual teacher. And I stood there and had this moment of clarity that one day I could be that. And I had no aspirations for that at all, but I just felt it like, oh, this will be me.
Wow.
And so true. That's what happened.
And what book was your first published Hay House book?
Remembering the Future was my first one, because it was this, when people say to me, what's it like for you when you get information about people? And I say, it's like I remember their future. And for me, it's all memory. It feels like, oh, I remember your dead grandmother. I remember this. I remember that. That's the experience I have, that I'm remembering something that I shouldn't be remembering, but there it is.
Wow. And then how did you segue into art?
Art's always been part of my life. So, I painted and drew on people's clothes for a living in the 80s. Sorry.
And I'm admiring the art behind you, which I'm
sure
I
painted that.
know is yours.
Yeah. Hang on. Are you editing this? Because
we can edit this out. I have a hard stop at in about.
Yeah. I just got to tell her that I've got you. Sorry, Beth, it keeps calling me. I'm okay. We're here, and I'll call you later. No, we're writing a call right now. I'll call you later. Bye. She was worried. I kept saying, help, help, help.
I know, me too.
Help me. Okay.
I was emailing your team going, we're not able to get on.
So let's go to art. So I always did art. Doodling was always something that I did. I always doodled eyes and things like that. So that never occurred to me that was really art, but it's something I did all the time, every day. But I did actually make a living as an artist for a couple of years in the late 80s. And I made a living. I could pay for my apartment, my dog, everything. Like I made a real living doing that. And then I segued into the readings when the economy changed, and no longer I could get $500-600 for my art on somebody's. Right. If it was for the painting, they paid me that for the painting. So, and that was no longer a viable thing. So, and then it became popular. That was the other thing. I was doing these shredded jackets and paintings and rhinestones and hand sewn stuff. And then they started mass marketing stuff like that. So anyhow, and then I didn't do any art for a while until the pandemic. And then I started painting. I painted an entire Oracle deck of giant 40 by 30 paintings that just came through me. And then I broke my foot. And so I got into line art. And that's how the art of manifesting was born.
And how long was it before you found that you were able to create a whole Oracle deck and in quantities that you never thought possible?
Oh, well, I didn't think that. Oh, I mean, so all my work prior to that was working with other artists. So I don't know. I just kept following along. Like I did one deck that led to another deck that led to another deck. And I kept receiving the decks, and I kept asking, I said, hey, I have an idea. Can I do it? Yes. And for a while, my decks were #1 sellers. They're not necessarily now. It's kind of like my husband would remind me, you too never had a #1 album every time they'd release one. So, and they're pretty ubiquitous right now. Everybody does Oracle cards, but at the time it was still relatively new. So it was very popular. My decks were. And they still are. Some of them still really still sell worldwide. So I don't know if I ever recognize the number. And the number that we say on the bio is really the culmination of all my products over 20 years. So we probably need to tweak that a little bit, but it's not a lie. We count it. Right? You count it.
So today, I know you have an amazing body of work, and I love your candor. I love the sharing that you've done, because I mean, a lot of people that are struggling, when they see, okay, she did it, so maybe I can do it.
You can do it. You totally can.
Yeah.
All my courses, everything I offer is taking you from where you are to where you could be.
Mhm.
Right? It's every single thing that I do, everything that I offer answers the question, who do I need to become in order to have the life I say I want? And it's all about supporting you to get there, because you can. If I can do it, anybody can. Like, that's how I am. I'm like, I was a tough nut.
I love that, love that, love that. So what are you most passionate about today? What are you seeing as being so pivotal in helping people make a transformation in their world?
So I'm a nerd. I'm a total nerd. And as much as I've loved, and I love doing the oracles and stuff. I think oracles right now, because they're so common now and mainstream, I really love the idea that people are starting to have that independent, conscious, personal contact to guidance that oracle cards can give them. So it's now become very popular because, people want that. I want my personal connection, right? So that's really exciting. But because I'm a nerd, I'm a science person, right? So I always would say, how is this possible? Why am I experiencing this? Who knows about this? What scientist can I talk to? Like, I don't get how this is working here, right? So I've always been very skeptical, and want, evidence that can be proven, and not always it can. But what I can see is consistency. So now that science, or post-materialist science, now that quantum science has become more popular, and then more people are talking about these potentialities and new theories, et cetera, have caught up to the spiritual. So you have the science meets spirituality. And so I kind of say what I'm most excited about is that I'm at the corner of Fringe in Maine with a pen in my hand and a piece of paper, because I can show you how simple art, very simple doodling, can bridge those two things, shift brain plasticity, and show you how you can, in fact, co-create a different reality for yourself in such a way that is embodied and not just stuck in your head, as most kind of visualize this and want this and focus on that. This is more about I am this, because we don't manifest what we want. We manifest what we are. So that's what I'm most excited about is really helping people understand this. You don't need talent to do this. And this is a thing that actually works. So yeah, I'm excited about the art of manifesting.
I love the understanding that the conscious mind is only processing about 40 bits of information per second, which is like listening to three people have a conversation. And the subconscious mind is processing 40 million bits of information per second. So really anything you do that lovingly, nurturingly gets in there and communicates with that huge reservoir of talent and ability and can do and creativity and fun, is going to change things in your world, potentially. So can you just share with us a couple of stories of people that have been in some state of struggle? They start playing art, and then all of a sudden something.
Yeah. I have a great story. Well, I have some stories about me, but everybody expects, well, yeah, you're you. But yeah, so my assistant was really struggling. Her parents had to sell their house, her elderly parents. And they had this dream that they could somehow cohabit and create this place. Anyway, that's a very big thing. And she was living somewhere else. And she was like, I don't know how this is going to go. And the real estate agent said, it's not possible that we could find this thing that you say that you're looking for. It's just not available. And all of it at once, saying you have to sell one and get another. And Jill was like, you know what? And I know she'll be happy for me to share this. Like, I'm going to do a drawing, I call it. And she is an artist, but this was new, like the line drawing. And she runs my mastermind. So she knew different ways of line drawing actually works, because we've been doing this for 10 years. This isn't new. The art of manifesting is not new, but not to us anyway. So she's like, oh, I'm just going to do a drawing. And sure enough, in one day, they sold the house, got another house, all in 24 hours, and I'd say it all got concluded within 48 hours. And she said, I have the drawing to prove it. It was crazy. And the realtor kept saying, this is not possible. I do not know how this is happening. I do not know how this is happening right now, because she saw it and claimed it and said, no, this is what we have. And she rehearsed it every day. Oh, good. We're good. I could see the house. I'm like with my parents, boom, boom, boom. And it wasn't where they thought it would be. And it wasn't, but it was exactly at the end of the day, exactly what was right for them. But it did happen exactly as she drew it. Another one, which is really good, was something happened to me. So, and I love telling this story because it also shows, with the art of manifesting, that it's not the exact form, because I teach that now, like let go and see what's right for you. A piece of the form you say you want will show up always, but it may not be. Oh, like a friend of mine did the drawing. She really wanted this car. And because you can draw it around things too. You can. I sometimes think it's easier because you don't have that much attachment to it. But she's like, I really want this car, and brand new car, quite expensive. And she drew the car and like did the doodles the way I taught her in the book. And 2 weeks later, her son comes and brings her a replica of the car in a little tiny box. Look, Mom, here. So she didn't get the car. She got a replica. She did get the car, but it was in a tiny box, right?
She got validation that her vibration is going out into the world.
Right? So it's like, and I'm like, well, don't give up. That's just one step of it. So I will share something that I'm a little embarrassed about sharing, but I'm going to share it because it's a really good story. So when the book first came out, I never thought that I would ever be get a New York Times bestseller, right? Like everybody wants one. It's such a thing, like to have a New York Times bestseller. It means you've been in the club. That and going on Oprah, I think, whatever it is, right? And so I never actually thought that my work was too niche anyway up until now. And why would you put it yet? So, but I was thinking about this book. I was in my hot tub and I call it my cauldron of magic. I'm like, who would like a New York Times bestseller? So I go and I draw it into one of my drawings. I go, yeah. And all I put was New York Times and big hearts around it. And because I talk about the motive behind it, my motive was that many people would benefit from learning the art of manifesting. That was the motive. It wasn't to be famous. It was, so I always tell people, know your why before you put it on paper. So my why was, I assumed if that happens, then tons of people would get the book and love it. Voila. 2 hours later. So I call my head of my brand and says, and I tell her what happened. She goes, oh my God, I can't believe it. And I went, isn't that funny? I said, is it going to happen? But I'm not attached, whatever. And we just laughed and forgot about it. 2 hours later, Beth Grossman sends me a note, as a woman we know in common. The New York Times would like to invite you to teach, to talk to them, come to New York, talk to them about teaching the art of manifesting to their staff.
That's epic. I love it. That is so fun.
No bestseller, but the first thing I told the guy when I got there was like, oh my God, I manifested. You want to know how? And we just had the best time. And if that's all that happened, I'm okay. Like, I'm happy. I just knew the universe was listening. That's really the end of the day. What I want people to get out of this book, out of this work, is the universe listens. And it always reflects. What is yours will not go past you. And it's going to reflect you. It's going to reflect this. And you'll get what is right for you in the form that is right for you. It may not be the big car or the bestseller, but you'll get a kick out of it. Like, I laughed. I was like, oh my God, maybe there'll be 12 people there, but 12 people will learn the book.
And isn't being open and curious and playful
Yes.
key ingredients to that? Because if you're just like, it has to be this way, it has to be this way. I have a friend who, she now has a beautiful healing retreat. And at first she was like, okay, it's got to be on this property. And she kept pushing and pushing and wanting and wanting, and it never became available. And one of her spiritually oriented, people said, you want to let go of that and just be open to wherever this is.
Yeah.
And as soon as that happened, there was a huge price drop on the exact perfect property that was different. And that showed up, and now it's reality.
And that is something that we need. I think because the world is so uncertain, we come to these subjects craving certainty. We think it's going to give us certainty. Boy, what it should do is remind us of our faith, but also of surrender, and just let go your attachments. And also, in order to be intuitive, you need to be curious, right? You have to be. So it's all of it: the curiosity, lack of attachment,
Playful,
1000%. Be playful about it. Every time I get too serious about it, I know it's not going to happen.
I know we have a hard stop coming up. I love to ask people, final question. What would you go back and say to 10-year-old Colette?
10-year-old Colette, no matter what happens to you, you are loved. And one day you're going to help other people remember they are loved too.
Love it. Where do people find you? How do they join this Dream Quest Platinum Mastermind?
Okay. So if you go to ColetteBaron-Reid.com, you can go through my website and see all the things that are there. And if you're interested in the book, if you go to ColetteBaron-Reid.com/book, there's a bunch of free stuff there that you can have that would support you in working through the book, The Art of Manifesting, which I should show you actually.
Yes, please do.
You're shamelessly self-promoting.
Yes, shamelessly promote.
This is my book. I love it.
Yay. Great. Love it. Thank you so much for being with us here today. I love your journey. I love what you're sharing. I can see how you massively make a difference in people's lives because, when people, we've been there when we were not feeling good, not feeling supported, feeling confused, feeling victimized, whatever, just not knowing which end was up, and all these wonderful teachers that we had. I love to say we stand on the shoulder of giants.
I do too. We stand on it, and we should never forget that. And that keeps us humble too, because we didn't get here on our own steam.
You also said something else, which I love, and I say all the time, when somebody says, oh my gosh, you're such a great healer. I said, I'm not healing anything. I say I'm a tour guide, and you say something very similar.
Yeah. Very similar. Yep. I'm just, yep.
Because it's all just this beautiful ocean. And in another interview I heard with you, you said, I'm not living, I'm being lived.
Oh, did I say that? But that's true.
It was the person who interviewed you, but you both, got
right. I ask, who is breathing me? Who is living me? Exactly. When I allow myself to be an emissary of divine will, that's when everything's amazing. And I am being lived. Something is living through me. And I have to remember that I have to honor and respect that.
Yeah. So beautiful. Well, I know we could talk for hours.
Yes, we can.
Again, I really have enjoyed this, Colette. So for just your website is COLETTE. It's 1 L 2 T's, Baron, BARON, Reid, REID.com.
Correct. Simple Simon. Yep. ColetteBaron-Reid.com. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook. If you put my name in there, you'll see it.
And of course, you'll see that in the show notes. And if anybody would benefit from this, please share this, like us, give us a comment. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Next Level Healing.
Amen.
This podcast is intended for the purpose of providing information and education. It does not provide advice and is not meant to be used for any self-diagnosis or the replacement of any kind of licensed professional. The creators and individuals appearing here do not endorse any specific tests, positions, medications, products, or procedures. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.